Now, once upon a time, I was someone who didn't have much of an opinion when it came to Disney. I honestly didn't think or care about them much either way. And if asked, I probably would have said I see them as something rather benign at the very worst, something harmless that I simply have little or no interest in. Or at best, I would have said they're something positive and that they're loved by millions, something that was a location, or Disney World and Land were locations, that virtually all kids on Earth wanted to go to, and all parents wanted to take their kids there in order to make some lasting family memories. And along with that, they were also a company that created some great family-friendly entertainment, mainly movies that usually became kind of instant classics. Stuff that, again, I personally had little or no interest in, stuff I rarely watched, just like a lot of guys, I'd argue. I'd have to guess a lot of guys who have or had reached their, say, teen years or beyond saw their interest in Disney or any of their properties fade pretty fast. If it was ever that strong in the first place, considering the Disney princess image, that just didn't appeal to them as much as it does to young girls. And I know some out there will immediately want to stand up and declare that they're a guy who's always loved Disney, or a woman who wants to say they never cared about it at all, and that it's a pretty sexist way of thinking that I have here. Problem is, this is exactly what Disney was thinking or worried about a little over a decade ago now. It's the reason why they purchased Marvel in 2009 and soon after Lucasfilm, primarily for Star Wars, in 2012. They purchased them because they saw their brand, the Disney brand, as having way more appeal to female audiences than male audiences, and that they were missing out on a whole lot of money because of it. And though we tend not to talk about that now, this was not some sort of a secret back then. This wasn't something that they were afraid to admit. Disney execs and major news outlets at the time were not coy when it came to talking about the main reason behind these acquisitions. It was common knowledge that it was done to capture the male audience, both the young boys who loved superheroes and Star Wars at the time, and the men who had long since grown up but still loved that sort of thing and had disposable income to spend on it. And so though I may have never thought much about Disney back in the day or back before 2009, they certainly thought a lot about me and about acquiring brands that would help them tap into my wallet, which is about all they saw me as, a wallet that had been sealed shut to them, and they then saw Marvel and Star Wars as, well, a means by which to accomplish that, a means by which to make money off of me. They certainly didn't see these properties, especially Star Wars in my case, the way I and many others like me did, as something that is so beloved that it is damn near sacred. And thus to treat it as anything less than that is, well, akin to a form of sacrilege, as dramatic as I know that sounds. And so, overnight essentially, I went from someone who pretty much couldn't care less about what Disney did, to someone who was going to scrutinize every single little move they made, or at least every move they made when it came to Marvel, and again especially Star Wars. Which is something I really don't think they expected or considered all that much, or didn't think would be a major issue. I don't think they ever considered accountability into the equation or into their calculations when figuring out just how much money they were going to be able to make from these franchises. I don't think they truly realized how passionately some of the millions upon millions of fans they probably felt like they'd bought and paid for when they forked over all that money to George Lucas. I don't think they realized, considering I don't think they were fans themselves, I don't think they realized the high expectations some of us fans would have. That there were those among us who wouldn't just love anything and everything they slapped a Star Wars logo on, and that we wouldn't be shy about voicing our concerns and criticism either. And of course, this criticism tends to get labeled as things like hate or toxicity or worse in order to make them easy to dismiss. And make no mistake, there are certainly those out there who have gone way too far and said things that are over the line. But the vast majority of us fans, or former fans now, who get labeled as haters or again as worse, we went into this not only wanting to love Star Wars under Disney, but maybe even believing we just might or probably would, because a lot of us, I'd argue, as I was kind of talking about before, we didn't really have any sort of strong opinion or vast knowledge when it came to Disney and how they operate. Sure, we knew they were a corporation that loves money like all the rest of them, but we thought like fair and logical human beings, not like MBA-wielding corporate cronies born and bred for only one purpose, to make as much money as possible. But we instead thought rationally that, well, if Disney wants to make money off of Star Wars, and a lot of it at that, all they simply have to do is make it the best it could possibly be. that if they actually create a product that fans genuinely love and enjoy, not only are they obviously making happy customers, but those customers are then more likely to hand over their money and feel, to a degree, good about it, or to hand over more of it than they otherwise might. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm someone who feels a whole hell of a lot better giving my money to someone who I actually feel like cares about not only what they're creating, that is passionate about their work, but cares about me and my level of satisfaction. I'm someone who will spend an extra dollar or two or more to support someone or a business that I not only like and respect, but that I at least feel like also likes and respects me. I feel little shame in admitting that if Disney had done Star Wars right, I would have been one of their biggest, best, and most loyal customers. I would have gladly paid them time and time again for quality products and essentially been free advertising for them here on YouTube, telling people to check this movie out or this show out or to buy this product or that one, because I felt like fans were truly getting value out of them. Instead, barring some rare exceptions like, say, Andor, I tend to do the opposite. I tend to be an opponent of theirs. Mainly because I can't help but feel like my love of Star Wars has been used or leveraged against me, that I've been taken for granted, or let myself be taken for granted perhaps, that in all reality what Disney spent all that money on, a little over $4 billion, wasn't the honor and privilege to get to carry on the legacy of Star Wars. It obviously wasn't that. I think we can rest assured few, if any, of the Disney higher-ups have any real love for Star Wars. Instead, what they actually paid for was the guaranteed audience that comes with this franchise. They gave all that money for what they thought would be an easily tended to flock of sheep, a flock of fans that would go and buy, again, whatever they happened to slap a Star Wars logo on. But what I don't think they ever really expected was that some of us fans would turn out to be kind of like wolves in sheep's clothing. Some of us would not only stray away from the flock, but we'd make a whole lot of noise doing it, enough to disturb the rest of the flock, enough to make some ask what exactly were they following and why. And I know fans got a little noisy during the prequels as well, but I don't think Disney ever thought that was going to be a problem for them, not to this extent. I don't think they ever thought that this group out there, this untapped gold mine that they looked at us as, where they saw nothing but money-making potential from, again, a more male audience, an audience who had once had little to no interest in Disney and what they were doing, I don't think they ever thought we would turn out to be perhaps their worst enemy, who would, after being disappointed by their products, would kind of coalesce into a force against them. To the point where I know people, quite a few people actually, who hate Disney simply for what they've done to Star Wars and not for, well, for anything else they've done as of late that may have turned some against them, something I'm not really going to go into in this video. Anyway, many out there who didn't care about Disney at all now despise them and actively work against them. And maybe the saddest part about all of this is that they didn't have any real understanding of Star Wars itself before they bought it. They had no idea what the franchise that they paid all this money for was really trying to say. All they saw was potential profit when they looked at it, not any of the stories and lessons behind it that many of us fans had learned from it and taken to heart. With perhaps the greatest one of all being about selflessness and sacrifice, about giving and putting others before the self and how rewarding that could be. And though, no, I'm no way suggesting or implying Disney should have purchased a Lucasfilm to simply give it to us and create all types of free content for fans, I certainly get that's just not how the world works. I understand they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders. I get all that. I get this is the real world and that this real world, for better or worse, is driven by dollars and cents. And as I said before, I have no issue giving my money for great Star Wars or for any kind of great product. I'll happily do that when something is good. Instead, what I'm suggesting here is that if Disney had actually seen this as an opportunity to do something for, I'd argue, the greatest franchise of all time, if they looked at this as an opportunity to create fantastic and meaningful stories first, they would have achieved that which they really sought. They would have made more money than they could possibly imagine off of this. And they could also actually feel pride in what they'd created. They could feel good about themselves and what they were putting out there. Which leads to maybe the most ironic part about all of this. Because much like Disney, the Sith can only think inwards. They can only think of themselves and what they can gain from others. And like Disney seeks to use Star Wars for all time and for infinite growth when it comes to revenue, the Sith above all else seek eternal life and unlimited power. But the only way to achieve anything like that in Star Wars, to learn how to live on forever and achieve an unimaginable power, is to follow the other path, to follow the path of the light and the ideals of the Jedi, and to, in the end, receive the great gift that is becoming a Force ghost. The most ironic, and I'd argue fitting part of Star Wars is that the Sith can only get what they want by doing the opposite of what they're actually doing. But they can't see that. They're too consumed by their own greed, blinded by their own obsessions, to understand any of this. And so, as Yoda basically lays out for us, they end up causing suffering in the end, not only for themselves, but for others as well. They end up leaving behind a legacy of destruction, no more, no less. And for Disney, unless things change, the destruction of Star Wars will be a part of their legacy as well. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you think about this video, or whatever else you want to chat about in relation to any and all of this, or pretty much anything Star Wars. Anyway, leave those comments below, let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.